Hello and welcome to Meg's Made It. In today's video, I'll show you how to make chocolate ice cream bubble bath truffles. The key ingredients in this recipe are citric acid, which helps to break up the truffle and gives it a really cool fizzing action, SLSA, which is responsible for the bubbles, and baking powder. It's a great skin softener and it gives our truffles some body. I've added cocoa to this recipe for a beautiful natural color and fragrance, orange essential oil to enhance the natural cocoa scent, and finally cocoa and shea butter to hydrate and soothe the skin. For a complete list of measurements and ingredients, check out my blog. The link is in the description box below. If you'd like to see how these truffles are made, then keep watching. I've measured out my butters and put them into a microwave safe container. I microwave these at about 30-second bursts, stirring well in between because you want to make sure that they don't scorch and everything melts evenly. You can also do this on the stove in a double boiler by putting your measuring cup into a saucepan with about 1 inch of water and bringing that up to a simmer. It works really well. It just takes a little bit more time. In the microwave it takes about 2 minutes. And you want to make sure that you take your butters out before they completely melt. You want to have a few little lumps in them. It'll help it to cool down a lot faster so that you can add your essential oil to it. Now that our butters are melted, we can set them aside and wait for them to cool a little bit. I'm going to put on some rubber gloves because the mixture that I'm going to be working with is a little bit hard on your nails, especially the shine on your nail polish, and it also gets a little bit messy, so it's a lot easier just to remove those at the end. I've got a bowl and a strainer, and I put through my dry ingredients, which is baking soda, cocoa powder, and citric acid. I like to just run this through a strainer and get out the larger lumps and clumps so that it makes the mixture a little bit easier to work with. You want to make sure that you get rid of any lumps in the mixture. If you have any larger pieces, what's going to happen is you're going to get warts in your final product. It's not as bad with these truffles, but especially if you're making bath bombs, you have to be really careful. So I like to just be on the side of caution and really run the product through my hands, pushing it back and forth just to make sure that there's no lumps left in the mixture. It's not too bad when you're keeping the product for yourself, but especially if you're giving these as a gift or selling them, you want to make sure that they're as perfect as possible. When you feel like you have that pretty much worked through as best as possible, you want to put your strainer back on and you're going to put in the SLSA. It's a very airborne product and it can really irritate your nose and throat, making you sneeze. So I like to put a mask on when I'm working with it, especially up this close. You want to be really careful when you sift this through. You don't want to be too vigorous because it'll go pretty airborne. So I just tend to move my hand around instead of shaking it, which helps a little bit. Now you're going to mix this through again because you don't want any lumps, but you're going to do this really gently because like I said, it does have a tendency to really foof up on you, and if it does that, you're going to be coughing for a while. It's not too fun. So you just want to be really careful, but you still want to get the mixture really worked in so that there aren't any clumps in it. The SLSA is what's actually going to give you the bubbles in your final product, so it's a really important ingredient to have, and it can't really be substituted if you do want bubbles. I'm going to take my mask off at this point because I don't really feel like I need it too much more. It's just for the sifting for me. I've got my melted butters here and I'm going to add my fragrance oil. You want to add about 1 ounce of this. I didn't have enough of that specific fragrance oil, but I really wanted to use the orange. So what I did was I measured out how much I had and then substituted with a little bit more butters on the side. I wasn't sure if I would need them, so I just set them on the side, but I did end up needing them. So you'll see in a minute that I do add them in, but I just get started with this one. So I stir to incorporate, just so I make sure that the fragrance is evenly dispersed into the mixture. And you just want to pour it in, making sure that you get it all because it's really important. It'll make your bath nice and silky. And you want to just start mixing it in, working it in. At this point, you do want to be careful about how vigorously you do stir because the SLSA is still on the top and it can go airborne. So you just want to mix it in gently until you think you've got pretty much everything covered, and then you can get a little bit more vigorous with it. Consistency at this point is not really that wet, and I can tell that I'm going to need a little bit more oil. So I'm just going to put in the stuff that I had set aside just in case I needed it to bulk out to the 1 ounce from the fragrance oil that I should have had. And I'm just going to continue working this. You can see that it starts to really come together now. It's just that little bit extra oil that I needed. At this point, pretty much all the SLSA is in, so you can be a little bit more vigorous. You need to make sure that you really knead this dough because that's what's going to really bring it together. In the end, you want a consistency that's very much like a cookie dough, which is what I have now. Kind of a chocolate cookie dough, which it actually smells like, which is really nice. I used an orange essential oil, and you could pretty much use anything that would go with the chocolate smell. It is going to smell like chocolate, so you want to make sure that you use something that goes with it. So I'm just going to use a cookie scoop here, and really does make it look like ice cream. And you just want to pop out the little ones. Now you do want to work pretty quickly when you make this mixture. As you can see right now in the bowl, the consistency is like the cookie dough, but towards the end you're going to tell that it really does start to firm up on me and I have a little bit more problems. So I should have worked a little bit faster. But you just want to push them out and just pop them onto your pan as fast as possible. You can start to see now that the consistency is getting a lot drier and I'm having a little bit of a problem getting it to form into the cookie shape. It's not really a problem, I just tend to kind of push it in a little bit more just so I get that nice ice cream scoop form. So here you can see it's really starting to get crumbly. Still not a big deal. It's going to all come together. If you find that it does get a little bit too dry for you, you can pop it back in the microwave to melt down those butters a little bit more, and it does help. I would just put it on for about 15 to 30 seconds, just so you can start molding those ones. And once you have them all together, you just want to let them dry on the sheet for about 15 to 30 minutes. That's all they really need. They get quite firm quickly, but just those little pieces on top, you want to make sure that they don't break off. I'm literally getting every last bit here. I'm just going to load it up into the ice cream scoop and push it into it to make sure that it forms properly because it is drier. Pop that last one out, and if you have any leftover bits that you know isn't going to work into a whole ice cream scoop again, you can just take that material in your hand and squish it up, and that can just be your little tester just to make sure that it works properly and that you can enjoy. You pretty much just need one of these in your bath. It's about enough for a regular size bathtub. If you have an oversized one, you might need. So this is what's going to happen when you put your bath truffle into the bath. The citric acid is going to start to break up, and you can see it there kind of billowing out. The SLSA will start to foam. You want to actually agitate the water a little bit for that. In this purpose, I'm doing it with my hand because I don't have the running water, but the running water from your tap will be enough to do it in the bath. And that's your final product. I hope you enjoy the tutorial. Thanks for watching.